Hi everyone, thanks for joining me for another Facebook Live. I'm Dr. Alexis Conason, and today we are going to be talking all about mindful eating and weight loss. So this is kind of a hot topic. I try to cover the hot topics here because I think those are what is of interest. Before we get started, just a little introduction about me for those of you who don't know me yet. As I said, I'm Dr. Alexis Conason. I'm a clinical psychologist and I'm in private practice here in New York City. And I specialize in working with people struggling with different issues around overeating and body image and sexual issues, because I think that tends to go hand in hand. When we don't feel good about our body, it's very challenging to have pleasure and joy in sex and around our bodies. So I do work with sex therapy as well. And I do a lot of work with mindful eating. So mindful eating, for those of you who are new to me and new to the philosophy, is basically the idea of being completely aware and present in our current experience. And there's a lot of talk about mindful eating and weight loss. So that's what we're going to be diving into today, is the question that I'm asked perhaps most commonly, which is, does mindful eating help me lose weight? So I'm so happy to see some of you joining me here live. If you're here, feel free to say hello, to introduce yourself. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them here on the spot. I want this conversation to go in a direction that is interesting for all of you who are watching live. So, okay, mindful eating and weight loss. I think it's really hard to talk about this question without also talking about why weight loss is so important in our culture. I mean, I think the idea that if we're doing something to change our eating, it has to be for this goal, the result of weight loss. In many ways, see Eli is here. Hi, Eli. Thanks for joining. In many ways, the fact that one of the most common questions that I'm asked is, will this way of eating help me change my body, really speaks to the pervasive emphasis on weight that we have in our society, right? Like, we always believe that, weight loss is the answer, whether it is success, happiness, health, a better partner, a better, just life in general. We think weight loss is the answer. And it's not, it's really I think that there's a tremendous amount of pressure that we feel to, fit our bodies, to manipulate them, to mold them into what society tells us it's supposed to be. And we stay really focused and preoccupied on the idea that weight loss is going to fix all of our problems. So if we're pursuing something that might improve our health, that might improve our mental well-being, but it's not about weight loss, then we tend to think, like, what's the point, right? So people only want to do something that is going to help them lose weight. Now, I don't want to say everybody, obviously there's some people who kind of get that the problem isn't really about weight loss, it's about the way that we feel about ourselves and that we feel about our bodies, and that's really what's causing us the intense self-hatred and misery. And if you're there, that's amazing, because it's really hard to get there in our culture that, again, tells us, again and again, that weight loss is the answer. For many of us, we're not there. And for many of us, we go back and forth, right? Like, some of us, we are able to, hi, Holly, thanks for joining. I just see her comment. Totally, it's rarely actually about the weight itself. Holly, by the way, is a fabulous body image coach. She's just a really wonderful person, and I couldn't agree more. Like, it's not about the weight. It's about the way that we feel about ourselves. And there's really, I think the idea, even, like I said, even the fact that people come in really wanting to work on work on themselves, work on improving their mental anguish that we find ourselves in. I mean, we're so tortured by these demands on our body, these demands that we have to look the certain way, that it's so hard to fathom doing anything for the sheer joy of like just being in our bodies and eating in a way that feels peaceful and, balanced. So to answer the question, is mindful eating going to lead to weight loss? I will say, I like to joke that, hi Rebecca, thanks for joining us. I like to say that mindful eating is going to do most likely one of three things to your weight. You will either lose weight, gain weight, or your weight will stay the same. So who is going to fall into which category, I cannot predict. And to be honest, I don't think it really matters, because I don't think that weight is such an important goal. And actually, the more that we focus on weight loss, the more stuck we feel in the dieting and self-hatred cycle. So a lot of the work that I do with clients is actually about trying to move us away from weight goals, to recognize that it's not our bodies that are the problem, but it's really the problem is our culture. The problem is that we live in this world that hates fat people and that tells women that our value is, and many men too, that our value is in the numbers on the scale. So when we can start to shift our way of thinking away from seeing our bodies as broken and seeing our culture as broken, I think the whole way that we relate to ourselves and that we relate to our bodies start to change. So what I tend to find with people who practice mindful eating, and I will say that, I think it's very difficult to truly practice mindful eating and truly be in tune with your body when we're focused on weight loss. Because what does weight loss do? It brings up diet mentality. It brings up the idea that there's certain foods that we should or shouldn't eat. And I'm kind of seeing some of the comments on the side, trying not to get too distracted by what Eli's commenting, which I think really speaks to this dieting mentality. This idea that we're good or bad based on what we're eating. The idea that certain foods are off limits and certain foods are healthy, and, with healthy foods changes like every other week. I love when people talk about, just some of the shifts in our changes about health. Like I had someone come in, talking about the changes in the recommendations on cholesterol or on dairy, and who knows what to follow, because last week it was whole milk that we're supposed to be drinking. The week before it was only skim. The week before that it was only soy milk, but now soy milk is bad and we're supposed to have almond milk or coconut milk or hemp milk. I mean, it's enough to drive us crazy. But where is the wisdom? The wisdom is within our bodies. And when we're living in conflict with our bodies, it's very difficult to hear what our bodies are truly saying. So mindful eating, the way that I see it, is not about weight loss. That's just not the focus. That's not the goal of mindful eating the way that I work with it. Now, I know that there's a lot of mindful eating programs out there that do focus on weight loss. And I think that it's really difficult to understand how we can be intentionally pursuing weight loss and be truly accepting and listening to our bodies at the same time. Because if we're intentionally pursuing weight loss, we are always going to be thinking about, what foods are going to promote weight loss and what foods are going to not promote weight loss. And that's going to be what we're really making our decisions from. So that has nothing to do with what our body wants or needs or what we enjoy, right? What kind of milk should we have in our coffee? What do you like? Because if you really like cream in your coffee and you're going for that skim milk, you're not going to feel satisfied. So all of the research shows that, you know, significant long-term weight loss is really, really rare. It, you know, in over 90, you know, the research ranges between 88 to 95% of people who follow a diet plan will ultimately end up gaining weight long-term. So we lose weight in the short term and then we gain it in the long term. There's tons and tons of research studies that show this. There's also some really interesting research that shows that the rare people, the few people that are able to lose and maintain significant amounts of weight long-term, they actually have like a registry called the National Weight Control Registry that was developed to study these rare unicorns who are able to lose and maintain significant amounts of weight loss, that these people look very similar to people suffering from anorexia. So, you know, they may be at a higher weight, but it's possible that there is also some eating disordered behavior that is going on to promote that long-term weight loss, which, you know, is not necessarily the picture of health. So when we focus on weight loss, we tend to, you know, be really disconnected from our bodies. And mindful eating is all about being connected with our bodies. So, you know, I always tell people, because, you know, like I said, it's one of the most common questions that I'm asked, and, you know, I'll explain, yeah, you know, mindful eating, my program, the anti-diet plan, it's really not about weight loss. We don't focus on weight loss. I'm not a weight loss doctor. I did my training in a weight loss program and a weight loss clinic, and I am a firm believer that that is not an effective long-term plan. It's not sustainable. It promotes eating disorders, and it just really like makes us miserable overall long-term. So, you know, despite the many different ways that I will say that this is not a weight loss plan, I will always get, you know, kind of people try to dodge around that and say, well, what happens to most people? Do most people lose weight when they follow your program? You know, I know you're not focusing on weight loss, but surely if I could get my eating under control, then I will be able to, you know, lose weight. And what's going to happen with your body is really, it's really unpredictable. So, you know, body weight is really complex, right? Genetics is a huge component of body weight. Stress is a huge component of body weight. Chronic dieting can impact our body weight. There's so many different things: discrimination, stigma, SES, you know, socioeconomic status, food availability. All of these things have an impact on our body weight. So you know, what's going to happen to your body? I can't predict what's going to happen with mindful eating to your body weight. And again, you know, I really don't think it's the most important thing. What I see, you know, to answer the question that I'm asked in 10 million different ways of like what typically happens, you know, the most common thing is that when people start eating in ways that are attuned to their body, their weight stabilizes around a healthy weight for them. So, you know, what that healthy weight is, I can't say. Is it what you want it to be? Then, you know, not necessarily. So a healthy weight to me is a weight that is sustainable long-term, that is about, you know, not where you're able to go out and freely live your life with pleasure, with joy, where you're not engaging in disordered eating habits, but you're able to kind of listen to your body's natural hunger and fullness signals, and you are able to, you know, go out with friends for an ice cream cone and not worry about it. And you're able to eat what you want when you want it, and it doesn't feel like we're at war with ourselves. It doesn't feel like we are, you know, holding on for dear life, doing everything that we can to avoid gaining weight. That's not a healthy, you know, in my opinion, that's not a healthy way to live. And even though it may not meet all the criteria for an eating disorder, feeling preoccupied with our weight is a symptom of disordered eating. And it makes us miserable, right? Like, what are we One thing that I think is important to visit is like, what are the values that you want in your life? Like, what are the ultimate goals? Is it, to attain a certain body size, or is it to live a life full of happiness and peace and joy and contentment and meaningful relationships with others and, things that bring you pleasure and joy? Like, I think it's hard to have that kind of a full life when we're terrified of going out to dinner. We avoid going out to dinner with friends because there may not be anything that's on our diet plan. So, I think part of it is reconnecting to like what we truly want in life. And we tend to infuse a lot of that with our weight because there is a $68 billion, I'll repeat that again, $68 billion a year invested in making us feel that weight loss is the answer. The weight loss industry is $68 billion a year. There's a lot of money and a lot of people who are benefiting from making us feel like crap about ourselves, making us believe that we're not good enough as we are right now, and that the answer is to buy some diet plan, product, pill, magic potion, cleanse, whatever, to solve all of our problems. And if you look at the marketing in these weight loss products, it really does tie in. They're not just promising that you're going to, lose weight and be in a smaller body, which, by the way, is not true. And if you look at the little, line at the bottom of almost any diet plan commercial, you will see results not typical. And that's because the typical results is not what's going to sell you the products. The typical results is that you feel, completely out of control, maybe that you follow the diet plan for a short period of time, maybe you lose some weight, and then you end up feeling completely out of control around food, and you end up hating yourself and feeling like a failure because you can't stick to the plan, even though the typical result is not sticking to the plan. The typical result is maybe, sticking to the plan for a very short period of time and then going off the wagon, which is why we're spending $68 billion a year on these products. Like, if dieting worked, we'd go on one of them probably decades ago. We would have lost weight, kept it off, gone on with our lives, be living, the lives that we want to be living, and we wouldn't be stuck in this misery. But diet culture keeps us stuck in this misery. Diet culture, really makes us feel that we are fundamentally not good enough. And when we are pursuing dieting from the belief, and pursuing that, I think dieting inherently is connected with the belief that we're not good enough, that our bodies are flawed, that we need to be fixed. How can we trust our bodies? How can we trust our bodies when we feel that our bodies are constantly leading us astray? And again, that's what diet culture, tells us that we're supposed to believe. So I think that the question, again, going back to the question that's our topic for today, will mindful eating help me lose weight, is entrenched with the question of, why is that so important? Why is weight loss the number one thing that we think we need to accomplish to be happy, joyful, and successful in our lives? That is a lie that's been taught to us by the diet industry, by the weight loss industry, by a culture that has a lot invested in having, men and women, but primarily women, focused on our bodies. I love the quote by Naomi Wolf. I think it's from The Beauty Myth, which is a really fabulous book if anybody's looking for some not so light reading. But she says, dieting is the most potent political sedative in women's history. And I really believe in that. I really believe that when we are so focused and we're so preoccupied with dieting and with, trying to change our bodies, then what are we not doing? We're not focused on changing the world. We're not focused on seeing all of the issues and all of the ways that we could be dedicating our time and energy to other things. Because that's really, scary to people. Like, what if women stopped hating our bodies? How would the world change? There's a lot of people who don't want the world to change. Like, a lot of people who aren't ready for women to stop hating their bodies. And again, I don't want to leave out the guys too, because I know that men struggle as well, but the statistics are disproportionate to women. Like, I think it's about 91% of women feel bad about their bodies, report feeling not good enough about their bodies, and I think it's about 48% of men. So that's a pretty notable difference, although like 48% of men is still a lot of guys out there who are suffering and struggling. And as a side note, I really love what's going on with the men's body positivity movement right now. If anybody's not following all of the really great like fat men bloggers and activists out there, there's some great people doing amazing work. And on Instagram, @positivity, which is a really fabulous account if anyone's familiar with them, they are featuring all men this month for Father's Day. So lots of resources out there for the guys too. But, again, there's a lot invested in having us hate ourselves. And I really see the anti-diet plan and mindful eating as a way out. We have to make peace with ourselves, and making peace with ourselves is about letting go of weight loss, letting go of the numbers on the scale and letting that define our self-worth. It's about, defining ourselves in a fuller way, allowing ourselves to take up space, allowing our voices to be heard, allowing ourselves to have joy and pleasure in, whatever it is that brings us joy and pleasure. I think that more and more I've been really believing that that a lot of the issues that we have around food and the ways that we feel about our body are really entrenched with this kind of cultural prohibition on women experiencing pleasure. It's so rare that we allow ourselves to just do something for the joy of it. And when we do, there's often a backlash, that we're selfish, that we're, not, should be home with the kids, or that we should be taking care of our husbands, or whatever, and I think that really infuses in the way that we relate to our body as a source of joy and pleasure, and the way that we relate to food as a source of joy and pleasure. Hi, Laura. Thanks for joining us. So, the question, I don't want to be callous and say that weight loss doesn't matter, because we live in a society, like I said, we live in a society that teaches us that weight does matter. And unfortunately, even though I think we've made a lot of headroads in the body positivity movement and in body acceptance, we're not there yet. So it's hard to live in our body, to live in our society in a larger body. There was a great quote from Dietland. I don't know how many of you are watching this show. Is anybody watching? It is so good. I am just loving every minute of this show. It's amazing. It's on AMC. It's called Dietland. It is about, a woman in a larger body struggling, at this point in the storyline, really struggling. Yeah, Holly, you're watching. It's awesome, right? Insanely good. It's my current favorite show, hands down. So it's about a woman in a larger body struggling to, with the pressures to lose weight, and she's kind of in that mainstream, weight loss paradigm in the beginning of the show, but you just know, the empowerment is coming and that she is making a change for the better. And there was a quote where she says in this episode that aired on Monday night, she says something along the lines of I realize I don't hate my body. I live in a society that hates my body. And I think that's a really important shift. The idea, can we recognize that, we live in a really messed up culture that is promoting these really distorted images of what beauty is, of what women's bodies are looking like, demanding that our bodies look a certain way. And the, idea, how to balance the, So when I say, I'm going to backtrack for a minute. When I say that I, it's not that I don't care about weight loss. I care about weight loss in the sense that, like, of course, if you want to lose weight, if you're in a place in your journey where you're wanting to pursue weight loss, of course that you are, because we're in a culture that tells us that that's what we have to do. And it's very hard to, kind of have that balance of accepting yourself in a world that doesn't accept you. I thought that was spoken to really beautifully in the last episode of Dietland. Holly says, I never thought we would see a show like this in our lifetime. I didn't either. I'm just blown away. And there are so many great, I'm in the process of compiling a summer reading list for you guys, because there are so many great books that are coming out now. I think we're at a really interesting moment in our culture where we're seeing a shift. Like, body positivity is coming into the mainstream. Dietland is a show with a fat character played by a fat actress. It's not Gwyneth Paltrow in a fat suit. It is a real live fat woman on TV, on prime time, on, a major cable network. And it's awesome. And she's just, like, out there living her life, struggling with many of the things that we struggle with. And I just read a young adult book that I'm going to be talking more about on my blog. It's called The Universe is Expanding and So Am I, by Karen Mackler, which is another, like, just awesome book with a fat, young girl. It's a young adult novel. Who is struggling with body acceptance, but it's not about weight loss. It's about just a fat girl out there living her life. And she has a sex life too, which I think is awesome. We so often see fat characters desexualized or fetishized. And, this is just kind of, we're starting to see more and more portrayals of fat girls and women who are just, like, living their lives. Not a sob story about the sad fat woman who then becomes thin. So, I think the show is revolutionary, I find, in a lot of ways. And I think the idea that we can try to shift and start to move from seeing our bodies as the problem and seeing weight loss as the solution to seeing our culture as the problem and fixing our culture as the solution. Because I don't think this is an individual issue, even though many individuals are suffering and struggling. And I do, as a psychologist doing, therapy, I do work on an individual level. But, like, really, it's a societal problem that 91% of women don't feel good about their bodies. That's our culture speaking. Like, that's not just one person. So anyways, mindful eating and weight loss. I wish that we could just move away from this whole question. I will feel, like we have succeeded in an anti-dieting movement when people start seeing the value of making peace with food and embracing a joyful and happy relationship with their bodies at any size. That is really where I am hoping, praying that we will arrive to one day. And I think that will free us. Free up so much mental space and energy to do so many other amazing, wonderful things with our lives. But we're not there yet. And I hope that my program, the Anti-Diet Plan, as well as so many of the other resources that are out there in terms of intuitive eating, if anybody wants to check out Holly's program, she offers some really great resources on how to improve body image. There's a lot out there. My program, the Anti-Diet Plan, if you're interested in learning more about that, you can check out my website, drconneson.com. I offer a free 30-day starter guide to help you on your journey to moving away from diet culture, using mindfulness meditation and mindful eating to embrace a more peaceful and joyful relationship with your food, your eating experiences, and your body. So definitely check that out and stay tuned. I'm going to be coming out with like I said, a summer reading list, because there's just so many great books that are coming out right now. So I think that will also be, another just really good resource. Jess Baker has a book that's out currently, Land Well. I haven't read it yet, but it's on my reading list. Virgie Tovar, who's one of my favorite people in the world, is coming out with a book. If anyone's not familiar with Virgie's work, go check it out right now. She's awesome. She has a book called You Have the Right to Remain Fat, which I just think is an amazing title. But anyway, I'm going to be hopefully coming out with that list in the next few weeks and lots of resources. But if you want to check out my resource, my free 30-day plan, it's drconnison.com. And if there's anything that you want to hear about on next week's or one of the upcoming Facebook Live events, I'm here every Wednesday at noon. Please let me know. I'm happy to talk about whatever it is that's of interest from you. For you. So let me know, drop me a note. You can email me, info@drconnison.com. You can hit me up on social media, direct message me, right on my page, on however we can find each other. There's so many ways to stay connected in this world. I'm on Instagram at the Anti-Diet Plan, Twitter at Connaison Psy.D. I hope we'll stay in touch and stay connected, and let me know what you want to hear about. And thank you, everybody, for joining me. Hope to see you all next week. Take care.